Coming up on the show, one metro Atlanta community is taking the color away from its city hall. We're going to explain what's behind the move. Also, if you find yourself in need of a hero on Georgia's highways, they'll be available once again anytime, day or night. We'll talk about that coming up. And we're going to take a deep dive into how much of a burden our credit card balance is becoming. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello, I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to give their take on the top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. All right, let's kick the show off with this. This week, has been a colorful controversy in Brookhaven, all centered around mosaic glass. It was recently installed on the city's dome, that new municipal building that they have there, but just days after the work, the project has wrapped up. The city officials and the public noticed the colors were a bit bright and more vivid than they expected, and now the glass is coming down. Here now to explain all of this is Brookhaven Mayor John Park. Mayor Park, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right. What was your thoughts when you first saw this glass? What was your reaction to it?
When I first saw it, I was like, "Ooh, that looks really, really bright." It doesn't look like what the renders look like. When we, made the decision about 3 or 4 years ago for the design of our city center.
So what was it exactly wrong with the glass? I mean, was it an oversight? Was it something like, well, we wanted it to be a little bit duller? I mean, what's going on here?
It was supposed to be kind of muted and kind of transparent, and there, and it really was. It was supposed to be decorative, but kind of, how do I say this? Kind of blends in with the rest of the city center. So it wasn't intended to be that in your face as maybe people said it was.
Was it like a traffic problem with it, maybe, or do you guys anticipate that? I mean, what's?
I think it just wasn't what we expected. It didn't look like the samples that we selected, and it didn't look like the renderings that we put together. So basically, they sent us the wrong thing, and we're sending it back.
Yeah. So obviously the public called out this as well. What's your message to them as the glass will be coming down?
My message is, we heard you. We were looking at it as well, and we're fixing the problem.
Is there a redesign that's going to be taking place, or are you just going to leave it kind of like it is?
For now, we're going to leave it the way it is. That glass was always intended to be adaptive. It was intended to, be able to change for the times or change for their tastes. It's not. There's no functional requirement for it. It's always been a design for an open air roof, so we can have events and kind of have that open air feel. So really, we're going to go back and look at the process, maybe update it, maybe do something different. All bets are off right at this point.
Yeah, all this obviously being a cost to the taxpayers. Will they have to pay more for it to be taken down, or is this something with the manufacturer that will come back to you?
For the time, well, I can't promise anything because we're working with the manufacturer, we're working with our architect, we're working with our project managers. But our focus is to not make the taxpayers foot the bill for this.
Is there a lesson learned here, like future projects, just making sure that it is what it is?
Return sooner, I guess. Or notice these things sooner. I mean, I didn't notice until it started going up. I don't, really, it's just this project is gone. It's going to be done in less than 2 years. We broke ground in October of 2023, and so I guess when you do things that fast, it's difficult to keep track. But it's going.
Yeah. Obviously, there was meant to be some type of, enhancement there. Obviously, you have the open air part, but you wanted to put a little splash on it, a little something on there.
A little bit, but not that much.
Right. So now that it's down, it hasn't come down yet, right?
It is in the process of coming down.
Process coming down. So when you look at it now and it's down, will you think there'll be an urge for, or even maybe a public cry out to add something to it?
A lot of people like it the way it is. I personally like it the way it is. And it also lends itself to other things. Like I'd love to see sails there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different things that you can add to it to enhance it. And we'll get up there. We'll have some events, see how it feels, and if you go through the atrium, we also have glass there, which is a little more muted. and the effect internally is cool.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what comes.
Have you ever been through anything like this before in your tenure? Have you ever seen anything like this? You seem to be calm about it. You seem to be like, oh, you know. It's
Look, projects. We've had multiple projects. We've had a remodel of our, permitting building. We've had a new public safety building that we built, on a challenging lot with lots of rock that we had to blast and things like that on the Greenway. So we're used to challenging situations, but we solve it, and we have the contracts in place to enforce it.
Keep it going. You're a mayor of the people, I'm sure. Now, if the people start crying out saying, hey, we need to add a little something, I'm sure you'll take their suggestions, right?
I'll take their call.
So we'll be looking for something new to be up there, I'm guessing, or to keep it like it is. I mean, as you said, you think it's going to be nice like it is, so maybe people will just appreciate its beauty for what it is, right?
Well, you know what? I plan on having a lot of rooftop events, so stop by one of my events and we can talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right, Mayor. Appreciate you joining us today, and we'll look and see what all becomes of it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Mayor John Park with us today, and removing the colors from that municipal building. Sounds good. All right. Well, you may have to cover it up with something to keep the rain away, right? Over the next couple of days. That's what we're really experiencing, folks. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. We're kind of stuck in the soup here as far as the rainfall goes. We'll be looking at scattered showers and thunderstorms mainly during the afternoons. I'm thinking after 2, 3 o'clock is when we'll start to see that, especially for today. Some of those thunderstorms could be on the strong to severe side, which is why we keep emphasizing it. With those thunderstorms, you're going to see, of course, the heavy rain and the frequent lightning, but some of those thunderstorms could produce some downbursts that would lead to winds being up to maybe 60 or 70 miles per hour. That could lead to trees being toppled over on power lines, and you get those power outages. And these are kind of days you really don't want your power to be out because it's going to be so hot and humid on the outside. We're not talking about triple digits, but we are talking about low 90s. And when you factor in that humidity, it's going to feel like the upper 90s out there. It's going to continue right on through the weekend and into the beginning of next week. So we're in a wave, and that wave is going to continue at least through Monday. Once we get to Tuesday of next week, that's when we're expecting some changes to come our way. We'll be looking at 89 degrees for the high temperature. That's where we should be for this time of year. We're going to hold on to those afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms through Wednesday, and then by Thursday, notice how it starts to go down just a little bit. Hopefully, we'll hold on to the low threat for rain for the 4th, which is next Friday, and those temperatures will stay where they should be for this time of year in the upper 80s. Hey, don't go anywhere, folks. We're back with more right after this. Welcome back to the show. President Donald Trump and White House officials are aggressively selling the success of the U.S. bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities. Joining us now is Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, the president's team was on Capitol Hill yesterday briefing senators. What came out of those meetings?
So they were closed briefings, so we don't have a lot of information, and everybody who walked out was very careful to not talk about anything that was classified. But there were some Republicans, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who has certainly been supportive of military action in Iran. He said, quote, no one's going to work at these sites anytime soon. There's been a lot, of course, public reporting about how bad the damage is there, and he was backing that up, that he believes certainly the damage at the nuclear sites in Iran was bad enough. No one's walking in there to push any buttons anytime soon. One leading Democrat pointing to past intelligence from before the briefings about what may remain. This is Senator Mark Warner, who's the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He said that some of the enriched uranium was never going to be taken out by a bunker-busting bomb. So again, referencing information that he had previously, he's raising concerns about what may remain of Iran's nuclear capabilities and whether they could try to rebuild that program, and he's urging diplomacy to prevent any future Iranian nuclear threat from redeveloping.
Gotcha. The White House is planning to restrict intelligence sharing after some leaks from the intelligence agency. What are lawmakers reacting to that? How are they reacting to those leaks?
Yeah, so they're talking about the White House, and we're hearing this from a senior White House official to NBC News, that the administration plans to limit intelligence sharing with lawmakers because of that initial damage assessment that leaked. And that is what the White House has been working so hard to counter, because it included information that the nuclear sites may only have been, or that the nuclear program may only have been set back by some 3 to 6 months. And White House officials have said it was selectively leaked, and that other information that said that the damage may have been more serious was not included in the leaks. And so they are also saying, the White House press secretary said that the FBI is going to look into the source of the leaks. But in the meantime, they're talking about restricting this access. And there are a number of lawmakers, also Senator Warner, who I mentioned there before, on the Intelligence Committee, who are raising serious concerns about that, saying that's not allowed. It's not legal to not share important information with Congress, and that there's nothing saying that it was a member of Congress or even a staff member of a Congress member who did that initial leak, that there would have been other people potentially within the administration that could have put that information out. So they are certainly not happy. They thought it took too long to get them any information about what was happening in Iran to begin with, and they don't want to see that kind of information curbed going forward.
Gotcha. All right, Alice, has there been any credible movement toward the proposed meeting the president mentioned between the U.S. and Iran?
Not at this point. Yeah, he said, we shared that yesterday, that he said that somebody from his administration, he was not specific, but he said, we are going to meet with Iran next week, and said it in a pretty declarative way. But Iran has not confirmed anything at this point. And the White House press secretary asked about that yesterday, said that there was no meeting scheduled at this point. But that goes back to what Senator Warner was saying, that there still needs to be some level of diplomacy to make sure that there's not an opportunity for Iran to press forward, and specifically to try to keep inspectors on the ground in Iran to have kind of an open door policy to what's happening with their nuclear program, and not have them go underground and, go completely off the radar with what they're doing.
Gotcha. NBC's Alice Barr joining us this morning, and thanks for joining us, Alice. All right, coming up on the show, we're going to talk to someone who's had a first-hand look at what it's like to live in Ukraine during these recent war times. You're watching The Take. We're back right after this. This week, Ukraine President Zelensky formally approved plans to set up a new international court to prosecute senior Russian officials for full-scale invasions of Ukraine. There are logistical details still that need to be resolved, including where the court will be based. The crisis between Russia and Ukraine may be seen as a military stalemate, but there are still remains a need to help those who live in that devastated area in some of those regions. Well, joining us now is Emery Morrisberger. He is the former state representative and now civic advocate who just returned from a humanitarian mission in Ukraine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You've been to Ukraine several times now, and I want to know what it feels like to see people working and living through these wartime conditions firsthand.
It's a tough situation. I was in Ukraine for 2 weeks, actually got bombed on my last couple days. The people there are resilient and going strong. They are dealing with the situation they've got. And some places are functioning just like normal on the western side of the country, and along the eastern side, they've got regular air raid attacks, which I got caught up in last week. We're working with a number of different humanitarian groups there. And more recently, we've been working with a number of technology companies who are interested in locating in the United States. Mm-hmm. They are looking to have a base here, and we're working to set them up in partnership with Georgia Tech and the Georgia Department of Economic Development and Gwinnett County.
From your perspective, how has the situation there evolved from when you first started going there to where it is today?
The situation with drones has happened. When I first started going in spring of 22, there were no drones that you worried about. I mean, you had a little bit of bombs coming, but nothing major. Now there are drones just about everywhere, and it's that way on both sides, basically going 20 miles back from the war front on both sides. It's something that the citizens there take in stride. They go to the bomb shelter when the alerts come, mm-hmm. and they come out when the alerts end.
Yeah.
and it's just part of their normal existence.
Is that how you were when you said you were there recently when there were some air raids?
Yeah. I was in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, and I actually spent 3 nights in the bomb shelter in Kyiv in the basement of the hotel.
Wow.
And then ended up going to Odessa, which is on the southeastern part of Ukraine, which had been relatively peaceful for the prior 2 months, but then last Tuesday morning at about 4 o'clock, the alarms went off, and it said, warning, go to the shelter immediately. And I opened my hotel window, and I could hear drones overhead, and then loud gunfire at the drones, and then explosions. And some of the other folks in the hotel were there with me. Again, it had been relatively peaceful for 2 months. And when there was a break in the shooting, we actually went to the bomb shelter and stayed there for about an hour. When we came out at just after sunrise, there was a lot of smoke around, and you could tell it had been hard hit. It was a pretty rough night for Ukraine in general.
Wow.
The people there are surviving and going strong. They take it in stride.
Yeah. I understand that you're collecting to get items for Ukrainians. What kind of items are you looking to get?
Well, we're doing 2 different things. We basically, since 2022, have been working to raise funds to help the Ukrainian people along the war front. We've sent ambulances, transfusion equipment, surgical equipment, generators, and all kinds of supplies through our helpingukraine.us network. And that's going well. That's based here in Atlanta. That's helpingukraine.us. In addition, we are now working on behalf of the business community in Gwinnett County with a number of Ukrainian technology companies to help them open bases here in the Atlanta metro area. And we've actually got 4 different companies seeking to open here in Gwinnett County. And there are more like them. They're not moving out of Ukraine. They're just opening a second location here in Georgia. And Georgia is a great place for them to locate, and it's a win-win for everyone.
All right, Emery Marsberger, thank you so much for your joining us this morning. Thanks for your insight, and thanks for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not a
Have
problem.
a great day.
Do the same.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right, you may be seeing more Hero trucks on the Atlanta Metro highways. We're going to check in with Natalie Dale to find out what's the latest. We'll be back right after this. All right, next week, GDOT will fully restore continuous patrols and fill Metro Atlanta coverage for its Highway Emergency Response Operators, or HERO program. Here now, friend of the show, GDOT spokesperson, Natalie Dale. Welcome back, Natalie. Good to see you.
Happy Friday. We made it.
All right, we did make it. We're there. Now, what kind of, talk to us, what's the difference that 24/7 HERO patrols make, especially for those early morning and late evening folks out on the road?
Well, you can't really schedule an emergency, can you? They can happen around the clock. And so you don't really know when your car's going to break down, or when you're going to have a flat tire, or when we're going to have an overturned tractor trailer. So things are going on our roadways, especially in Metro Atlanta, 24 hours a day. So it was, it took a lot for us to make that decision 2 years ago to dial back the service hours of HERO because we just didn't have the numbers. We were dealing with what a lot of first responder groups were dealing with, whether that was fire, EMS, local police officers. They were dealing with staffing shortages as well. And so in order to prioritize the HERO operators we did have, we dialed back those overnight hours so that we could provide rest when we could for those HERO operators. But we have spent the last 2 years really recruiting, and we're ready for 24/7.
Is that what turned the tide as far as those the staffing shortages? You just kind of the recruiting efforts. Is that what turned the tide for this?
Yeah, we've doubled the staff that we had when we had to reduce those overnight hours. Now, we're still not at full staff capacity, and that's common. So, we're not shutting the door on anyone who wants to be a HERO. If you want to be a HERO, we are still training and accepting applicants. It takes certainly a special person to get out on the road at all hours of day and night, to get out of there and moving traffic lanes, to get a tire out of the way, to help with an overturned tractor trailer. So It's certainly not a telework job. It's certainly a job that requires a lot of quick thinking, a lot of safety. And so if that's in your heart, we are certainly still training and taking applicants, but we've doubled our staff in that capacity and are able to begin rolling those trucks again 24/7.
Now, you also had a CHAMP program to help fill the gap while you were looking for others. Is CHAMP going away, or will they work together going forward?
Now, CHAMP is sort of that little brother, big brother, just sibling, good sibling to the HERO operators. HERO operators operate in the metro Atlanta area, which we know is big. CHAMP is statewide. So if you are, for example, this 4th of July weekend, if you're hitting the road, or this next 4th of July week, if you're hitting the road and you're in South Georgia and you get a flat tire, or you need something, or you're lost, and you dial 511, a CHAMP operator will be sent to help you. So HERO is in the metro Atlanta. CHAMP is that auxiliary service we have outside of metro Atlanta on all Georgia roadways that help as well.
That's good to explain, because, you know, people will go out of town looking for a hero and they get a CHAMP and they say, hey, what's that?
Yeah, hey, HERO,
Right,
CHAMP, I'll take both, honestly.
Understandable. Explain to us what kind of calls that the heroes will be going to.
Well, they certainly do a lot. We have now trained, we have really advanced what the training is for them. So that enhances what they do. So there is a level of first aid. There is a level of life-saving skills that they are being taught as well. I have known in my time at GDOT for a hero to help someone deliver a baby on the side of the road.
Wow.
So they are not just helping with batteries, dead batteries, run out of gas, flat tires. They do help for that. But if there's an overturned hazmat situation, they're out there working with first responders, law enforcement, fire, to help keep the scene safe, to clear the road. They are doing a multitude of things throughout our roadways. So anything that you need, call them. They're going to come help you. But if you call them, here's a big piece of advice. When you call them at 511, stay in your vehicle buckled in. That is the safest place for you to be while you wait for them. They have a big truck. They have lights. They are visible to oncoming traffic. Stay in your vehicle and safely wait for them. And they can help you with pretty much about anything.
Yeah, and completely a free service, right?
Completely a free service.
All right, Natalie Dale, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
All right, take care. All right, coming up on the show, we're going to talk about how credit cards may be becoming a strain on the middle class. You want to stay tuned for this, folks. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. An intersection in South Fulton, known for years of congestion and safety concerns, is finally fixed thanks to a $4.4 million roundabout being put in at Butner Road and Union Road. Here with us is Carmelita Gomes, member of the South Fulton City Council and also a candidate for South Fulton Mayor. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Walk us through the steps that you went through to make these changes and why they were needed.
Well, the intersection has always been problematic since we became a city and while we were still under Fulton County. So there were a lot of things that we were really pushing to try to get this intersection so we could save lives. Of course, when we became a city, the project stalled, so we really had to move force. And a lot of residents came to us and asked for us to start moving this project. So it wasn't just a city-led or a county-led project. The residents actually helped and made this happen. It took a while, but we're here.
We're here. You said as we stated, it was a $4.4 million investment here. Talk to us how SPLOST played a role in this.
Well, definitely. We've had money set aside, especially when we were with Fulton County. So the city had to come about and match the project with some funds. So the $4.4 million was a huge investment that was needed. And again, we're saving lives in our city.
No, that's right. All right. The area is both residential and commuter heavy, right? How did the city balance the safety and keeping traffic moving forward in this area?
Well, again, as we shared, it took quite a while. So I know in the interim of trying to get state projects moving, we had to put in some stop gaps where we had to actually have digital signage because the area was considerably dark. So people would travel very fast. We put stop signs and a lot of, stingrays, stings to actually get the people to slow down. And that has been one of the biggest things that has been happening in South Fulton. People just drive too fast, and we are moving in a direction. It's kind of funny that we joke about it. The city of South Fulton is a roundabout city. Right now, every corner you turn, you're seeing a roundabout. So we are doing what we need to do. It's the most cost-effective and safest way to keep traffic moving.
I was going to ask you that. How did you guys come up with that as being a safety measure or fitting into the city's infrastructure for safety? But you already have a couple of them, right?
Yeah, well, definitely. We have to be thoughtful about cost, especially as a young city. And the roundabout, again, was the safest way. We've seen them being done in a lot of the European countries. So we wanted to continue to try to see if that's something that we can do here in South Fulton. And of course, we're actually one of the cities that have a double roundabout, which is at Butner and Stonewall Tail. So Butner is a major thoroughfare in our city, and we have lots of roundabouts that are coming.
There you go. Any more traffic calming projects on the way?
Oh, we have so many, all throughout the city. People can go and find out where those projects are on our city webpage under our public works, but we have plenty of projects. It is great to see all of the things that are happening in our city. So just pack your patience when you come, but we are doing what we can to save and preserve lives in the city, and people can travel through our city safely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I know a lot of people will. What's coming down the pike for you? I know that you're running for mayor. Anything you want to say to the people?
Absolutely. This is such a critical election. We are looking for change. Leadership is very important to our city. We're still young and we have so much potential. So now is the time for voters to come out and make a change. And I am looking to be that change for the city of South Fulton as being their next mayor.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate the insight on all those roundabouts in your town.
All right. Thank you, Chesley. Have a great day.
All right. Take care now. All right. We are looking at a hot day, folks. I mean, it's going to be a very hot day out there. We're not talking about triple digits, but we are talking about temperatures in the low 90s. And when you factor in the humidity with that, it's going to feel like the upper 90s out there. So even though we don't have any advisories or any warnings out there, make sure you take the necessary precautions. I want you to play it safe at least. Looks beautiful right now. You're looking at our Arizona Avenue camera, looking at downtown Atlanta. Looks beautiful. Got a couple clouds overhead, but no precipitation coming out of those clouds at all, right? We won't see the rain until we get to the afternoon. I'm thinking after 2 or 3 o'clock is when we'll start to see some of those scattered thunderstorms, so be aware of that as well. All right, a new report out today warning that credit card debt may be becoming a long-term financial burden for middle class or middle income Americans. The report from Primerica shows 31% of people saying their credit card balances have increased in the last 3 months. Only 15% report a decrease in balances. 38% are more concerned about their credit card debt now more than a year ago. Joining us now is Primerica CEO Glenn Williams. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Chesley. Great to be with you this morning.
All right. How do when you hear those stats, how worried are you?
Well, it's certainly very concerning. Credit card usage has always been a challenge for the middle-income families that we serve, but we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years the increasing pressure, financial pressure in these families as the cost of living has outpaced their income growth. And we see families filling that gap more and more often with credit card usage, using the cards more, carrying larger balances for longer, and falling behind on their payments. So it's an area of significant concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming kind of a financial lifeline for folks, and you almost feel like some people have to use them. So what do we do?
Well, there's no question that they're important in an emergency situation or in a time of high stress. But I think a lot of families don't always consider the long-term implications of those balances building, extraordinarily high interest rates that they're paying, which are working against them. And really, it takes a moment of clarity and really understanding the cost of this. And then most families will say, okay, I see what's happening to my finances for the future. Can I get some help in understanding how to pay these cards down, eliminate the cards I don't need, and instead replace it with more positive use of compound interest, which is on the savings side of the ledger. And so those are conversations we're having more and more often with families each day.
Yeah, you talked about the positive side, the positive use. What about those who, use it for their basic needs like groceries and gas? What do you tell them, or what does that tell you about the broader state of the middle class households right now?
That's another indication of the financial pressure that these families are under, and that's often the path of least resistance, the first go-to. But when we sit down with families and explain to them the long-term implications, we try to encourage them to reprioritize. And in almost every household, there's some waste somewhere, whether it's subscription services that are not being used. It's a $5 or $7 coffee at the drive-thru every morning instead of a few cents to take one with you. Almost every family can reprioritize, and then we encourage those families to take what they free up and put it against those debts, and let's pay those balances down.
So you're basically saying, hey, look, at all costs, don't use the credit card? Would you say that?
Well, I wouldn't say at all costs, but we should use them for emergency situations. We should use them for long-term durable goods that make sense. They'll still have a value when the payments are done.
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
In minutes, and the bill lingers for years.
All right. So now, what would be the long-term implications if this trend continues? What do you think that's going to be?
Well, we've always known that middle-income families have struggled to save for the important goals of the future, primarily for retirement. And so I think the largest implication is it's going to further put stress on families' ability to save for retirement, for education of their children. It first hurts their long-term goals because those small amounts that can be saved over a long period of time that build into something important are instead used to pay off the cost of this credit. So the first place I think it's going to hurt families is in their long-term goals, but as it gets worse and worse, it can start eating into their short-term financial stability as well. So it's something, first of all, awareness is critical, and that's what we want to get the word out as a result of our financial security monitor, and then help families put a plan together to deal with this.
Is that what policymakers, employers, and companies like yourself can do for the middle class to get this thing rectified a little bit here?
Well, it starts with awareness. It starts with information. I think we can all help with that. We're privileged to be in more than 50,000 homes across the U.S. and Canada each month, helping families with their finances. And often the very first conversation we have is how to eliminate debt, how to set a debt freedom date when you know you'll have this behind you. And so that's what we do for middle-income families. And we feel honored to be able to help address this issue. It's a real concern.
Glenn, what do you say to people that say, man, I hear you talking, but this is so hard. I have no new money coming in, and now you want me to, try to prioritize. What do you say to them?
Well, it is. It can be very discouraging. And that's why having someone from your community that has dealt with the same situation you have come in and give you some advice, give you some guidance, talk about the options, and help you reprioritize, which is almost always what's necessary, and then stay with you because, the first decision is tough, but it gets tougher after that. It's being committed to the decision to reduce those credit card usage, reduce the balances, pay them off, and so forth. And so having someone beside you to help you along the way is very important, and that's one of the advantages we feel like we have in the marketplace.
There you go. Glenn Williams, thanks so much for your insight and all these tips today, man. It was great information. Thank you.
Great being with you. Thank you.
All right, take care. Plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. The new phone being pushed by the Trump Organization claims to be made in the United States, but is it? CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel. And it seems that to be the case. That's the question now with a change on its website, right?
That's right. Good morning, Chesley. Trump Mobile, the wireless service provider and phone company launched by the Trump Organization, no longer promises that its upcoming smartphone will be made in America, at least on its official website. The company adjusted language online a few days ago to drop that made in the USA claim, according to screen captures on the site by the Internet Archive. The phone is now described as being, quote, designed with American values in mind, and this comes after many industry analysts noted the phone closely resembles a product by a Chinese manufacturer. A Trump Mobile press release last week said the $500 gold-colored phone will be proudly designed and built in the U.S. A spokesperson for Trump Mobile told CNN that any speculation to the contrary is simply inaccurate. The phone's specifications have also changed online, now showing that slightly smaller screen, and its memory capacity no longer appears, Chesley.
All right, speaking of back here in the United States, one American appliance brand says it's bringing back the jobs here. What's the full story behind it?
GE Appliances announced it will spend nearly $500 million to move some washing machine production back to the U.S. from China. The move comes amid U.S. trade policy uncertainty ahead of President Trump's July 9th tariffs deadline. The company is also building a high-tech clothes care operation at its massive industrial park and headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. A GE CEO says the changes are about economic strategy and that potential tariffs are merely an accelerant. And he says the move follows similar reshoring efforts made by GE Appliances in recent years, having invested $3.5 billion in its U.S. manufacturing facilities during the past decade. The Kentucky plant, which has been in the works for 6 years, is expected to be complete in 2027 and bring Chesley about 800 jobs.
Ooh, 800 jobs. Okay. All right. We've all experienced that blue screen of death, but at some point, but it's going away.
Yeah, Microsoft is scrapping its iconic blue harbinger of tech trouble that appears during unexpected restarts on Windows computers. So there's a new black iteration that was announced in a company blog post Thursday. It's set to launch sometime this summer, and it's going to be part of updates that will make it faster and easier to recover from restarts. Another is the user interface will change to match the Windows 11 design and cut down downtime during restarts to just 2 seconds for the majority of users, Chesley. And I know if the screen has a bunch of code, we're in trouble.
You're absolutely right. We're in trouble. All right. Finally, we got to talk about some chicken here. We are kings. I would say we're kings of the chicken sandwich. And Raising Cane's has some locations here as well in Atlanta. But they are making some new locations, right?
They are. You'll be happy to know the Baton Rouge, Louisiana-based chain Raising Cane's is expanding 4 states. We'll be getting new locations next month. One will be in our neighborhood, or I should say in our neighbor to the south, Jacksonville, Florida. Others include Las Vegas, Nevada, along with another one in Illinois, and 2 more in California. Now, Raising Cane's is known for their uniquely spiced chicken sandwiches and chicken finger combos, along with their popular cane sauce. According to their website, Raising Cane's owner Todd Graves initially planned to call his restaurant Sockeyes. That's a nod to the salmon he used to fish in Alaska, but his friend convinced him, name it after your dog, the yellow lab. So now it's, Cane's. Have you tried it? Because I got to tell you, Chesley, there is one across the street in Times Square. Have not tried it yet.
Yes, I have tried it. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's another chain around here that gets a little bit more pub, but not bad.
I know Chick-fil-A has your heart. Has mine too.
All right. Everybody have a great weekend, all right?
You too.
All right, take care. When we come back, we're going to get a preview of what's going on the Georgia vote. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the show. There appears to be, as we've been reporting, a split between Republicans after President Trump approved airstrikes against a Iranian nuclear site. Let's bring in 11Alive's Zach Merchant back to the show, co-host of the Georgia Vote. So glad that you're here with us. We missed you, Zach.
Hey, I missed you guys. I was out for a little bit, was traveling, and every Friday I woke up and I was like, I got to be on the take here. So it's good to be back, Chesley.
All right, thanks for joining us, man. All right, we talked about this split between Republicans, and this does include a prominent Georgia congresswoman, right?
It absolutely does. We're talking about Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Most folks in Georgia, most folks in the country who track politics, of course, will know that she is a staunch conservative and a staunch ally of President Donald Trump. But in this world of modern conservative politics, and in particular sort of the MAGA, the Make America Great Again wing of the modern Republican Party, where they are often in lockstep with the president, Marjorie Taylor Greene in this case has broken with the president. She has been a vocal critic of last weekend's, or I should say this past weekend's, American airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, and in pretty vocal terms too. I want to read you just a little bit of a tweet that Congresswoman Greene put out earlier this week. This was on Monday. She tweeted that during the campaign, President Trump campaigned on a promise of no foreign wars, no more regime change, and then she goes on to say, it feels like a complete bait and switch to please the neocons, the warmongers, and the military-industrial complex to carry out these strikes. So it was some pretty harsh criticism.
This seems to be, or at least the first time I have noticed her make a complete switch. I mean, in the words you just read, sounds more like what the Democrats have been saying. What do we make of this?
For as much as sort of the MAGA movement is typically in line on things, just like any modern, and I shouldn't even say modern, just like any political coalition in the course of history, it's made up of people, and there are always going to be different degrees and different views on things, even when the majority of the coalition generally sees things the same way. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has been fairly consistent on this point. She has been critical for some time of what some would call foreign intervention and American military foreign intervention. But we should be clear too, she made those comments earlier this week, and obviously things have evolved a little bit since those strikes were carried out on Saturday night, right?
All right, so a Democratic primary race for the Metro Atlanta seat in Congress is filling up. What's going on with the Georgia's 13th district?
Another sort of, we talk about these coalitions and how even inside of a party there can be dissent and friction and controversy. This is what we're seeing here on this case on the Democratic side. Of course, Congressman David Scott, he currently represents Georgia's 13th congressional district, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a Metro Atlanta seat that covers counties to the south and the east of the core of downtown Atlanta, so it's an essential piece of Metro Atlanta's congressional district. David Scott has served that district for more than 2 decades. He's a Democrat. He's a long-serving incumbent, right? You'd think he'd be a very tough person to challenge, and he may prove to be, but there are a lot of people who are rolling the dice and saying they want to get into this race. There is a growing field of Democrats who are entering the primary to try to unseat him. State Representative Jasmine Clark is one of those candidates. We talked with her earlier this week, and we will be airing a lot of that interview this Sunday on the Georgia Vote.
Has he had anything to say about this rush of Democrats trying to get in?
You know, he hasn't, and it's not for lack of trying. We've reached out to him and his office repeatedly, both following State Representative Clark's comments and in interviews, following interviews with other Democratic contenders, State Senator Emanuel Jones and former Gwinnett County School Board Chair Everton Blair. They're also in this race, and many of them have raised questions about Congressman Scott's ability to perform in office. He's pushing 80 years old. He's been in office for a long time. They've raised some questions about his performance. We've, of course, brought that to Congressman Scott every time they're made. So far, he has never responded.
Yeah, this has been something we've been hearing a little bit lately, the push for more younger folks running for office. Is that what you're seeing across the board, maybe?
I think certainly in this case, this is a real microcosm look at that, right? One of the things we keep hearing from these candidates who are all substantially younger than Congressman Scott, the youngest being Everton Blair, who he's like 33, he's very young. One of the criticisms that we hear is they say there is frustration among the Democratic base. There's this urge to see more fight from elected leaders, and they say that they're not getting that from Congressman Scott. We should put this caveat here, though. You know, there's this big field, there's a lot of challengers. We haven't heard from Congressman Scott in response to these claims directly, but unseating an incumbent still is very difficult. We talked to UGA political scientist, a legend in Georgia politics, Charles Bullock, earlier this week, and he said, despite this big field, you got to remember, you're a long-serving incumbent, you've got a big advantage in name recognition, and you've got a big advantage typically in fundraising too, both critical components of winning an election. So you got this big Democratic field, but the primary ballot, you're going to have a lot of options if you're a voter, and it's way too early to handicap which way it could break.
Gotcha. All right, we're running low on time here. Real quick, I want to get to this. Big date on the calendar coming up. What are you watching for?
Very big date on the calendar, June 30th. It's the end of the campaign finance reporting period here in Georgia. It's sort of put up or shut up time for a lot of candidates here. If you're already announced in the race for governor or lieutenant governor, attorney general, you're going to want to put up a big number there. If you're in the wings, thinking about jumping in or not, you're going to be paying close attention to see how much money these candidates have raised.
All right, our friend, Zach Merchant, thanks for joining us today. Don't stay away so long, man, next time, okay?
It's good to be back, Chesley.
All right, good to see you. You can watch the Georgia Vote with Zach and Faith Jesse on Sunday mornings right here on 11Alive at 11 o'clock and on 11Alive Plus. All right, we got your weekend outlook coming up, plus my final take right after the break. You don't want to miss it. Well, it's the rinse and repeat forecast, folks. Scattered showers, thunderstorms right on through the weekend and into next week, with temperatures remaining in the 90s, low 80s by Tuesday of next week. All right, before we go, my final take. You know, I probably have been, or you're probably thinking I've been picking on the bad side of artificial intelligence all week long. Well, you're right. Might as well continue today. Most students try to keep their use of ChatGPT nice and confidential, but one student at the University of California, Los Angeles decided he was going to show his off regardless. At his graduation, the stunning moment took place when it was captured on UCLA's live stream, where the graduate held up his computer, his laptop, showing evidence of his use of ChatGPT. It's got reshares on Instagram and X, millions of views, people applauding the guy, and some saying, this guy's an idiot, right? Some calling for his degree to be removed. Well, this comment right here just sums it up for me. If ChatGPT is why you graduated, ChatGPT already has your job. Enough said. That's all we got for you today, folks. Sound like me, doesn't it? Make it a great day, folks. Try to encourage someone and stay safe.